Well, by now, you've seen my introductory. This is YouTube, I'll get it straight. Introductory YouTube, you probably have read my memo to you, which kind of introduces the course. I will I will have more to say. You'll be getting more emails, perhaps not for every single module, but I know that you will get an announcement at a minimum for every module and a YouTube for every module. What we're going to do with these YouTubes is I'll try to have them, the modules begin on Friday. So I'm going to have them posted by Thursday. So when you go in, you get a kind of an overview of what we're doing, which is what I'm going to talk about for the next roughly 9 minutes. Okay, first of all, one of the things I've done, because it's my style, we're not allowed a lot of flexibility at Morgan, but we are allowed some. I don't care for that timeline thing. It always manages to make me feel like you're going to that and not really paying attention to everything that's in the module material. So what I've done is at the end of each assignment, I've posted its due date. Now, I did make a mistake. One of our colleagues did discover that I did not put the, you've got that noise again, I apologize. I did not put the dates for the first two assignments, so let's talk about those for a minute. The one is Going Indigenous. That's a funny name. I would have preferred we could say Participant Observation, but it fits under both. That will be due Sunday the 3rd. It's short, it's concise, it just says between Friday and Sunday you're going to experience something that you haven't done before. Or if you have done it before, it was a long time ago. I made some reference to it, if you remember, excuse me, in the last YouTube. I want you to go to a part of a library, ride a bus, go to a museum, maybe go see a movie that your kids would like, but you're not sure you would, and just observe the behavior. And then, as it says in there, in bold, tell a story. What did you learn from this? Because what we're doing with qualitative research is attempting to understand human behavior. One of the things we know about human behavior is that it is situationally defined. People tend to create, in many ways, their own reality. And if we're not part of that building process, we may find ourselves wondering what's happening here. And that's not something that is good for a researcher, be you education or sociology, anthropology, whatever. Okay. The discussion board is being used a little differently with me. Most of you have worked together a good bit already. I want you to begin to think a little more individually, a little more creatively. So you will be meeting some new folks. We're big, we're 16 people. Some of them are not in the cohort that makes up about 2/3 of this course. But the bottom line is you will meet some new scholars, you'll develop some new perspectives, because the one or two that I know who are not in the cohort that I worked with in 609 have very rich backgrounds, and I'm looking forward to about 4 that I don't know. And so remember, I have asked that you post a little 5-sentence or less statement about your background. The writing assignment for this particular first module is somewhat phenomenological. Now that's a tough piece of work. We don't recommend a lot of phenomenological dissertations at Morgan. Dr. Rosemary Gillette-Karam writes brilliantly in that area. I don't personally find it very rewarding. I'm much more analytical. I'm much more interested in participant observation, case studies, interview processes. So that's where I come from. But the whole thing comes down to something that sociologists do agree in almost universally, and that is much of what we do as educators, as sociologists, and in other fields, is to try to look at an ambiguous situation and make sense of it. That's been shorthand by a couple of researchers into sense-making. From my era, Egon Guba and Evelyn Lincoln did some of the early research. They happen to be mentioned in your bibliography. A little later in the course, you will meet a gal named Pam Eddy. And Dr. Eddy is another more modern researcher looking at sense-making. So basically what we're looking at is to discover from the readings and from your interaction with your colleagues to arrive at a logical reality that someone else other than you has established. You will not get all the cues and clues, that's not likely, but you'll pick up enough to be effective. Okay, PowerPoint 1, I did deliberately. It is designed to give you a complete gestalt of the entire qualitative research modality. And I think you'll enjoy it. It's well done. I cobbled it together from a number of different areas. Found it very helpful. PowerPoint 2, you have to be careful with that one. Please don't tell GK that's one that we used. She is a Wolfpack person. She came by way North Carolina State University by way of Lewisburg College, where she was president to Morgan. But along with being a Longhorn from Texas, she's also a Wolf from the Wolfpack at NC State. And that was done, as you saw by the label, or you will see, by UNC. Tar Heels are fine too. Okay. It does have a couple of interesting points that I think you will find helpful. It talks a little bit about involving you, the researcher, and your subjects, and empowering them through a sense of ownership, that the activity they're involved in has utility beyond its intrinsic use that they make of it. There's something else there, which leads us directly into transferability. We are not going to discover in qualitative research a process akin to validity as you know it if you're using statistically driven or quantitative models. But transferability simply means that someone who was not there when you did the participant observation, or you did the case study, or you did the interview schedule process, would agree, yes, what you state in your writing makes inherent sense, and that's what we want. The other thing is another side of that you would be able, not pure reliability, not the exact same every time, mainly because human beings don't stay the same from minute to minute. We're in constant interaction with our environment. And what I thought and felt even 2 minutes ago, when I was anticipating where I was going with all this, I've gotten there now. Now I'm thinking ahead to something else. So we change from moment to moment, hour to hour, day to day, week to week, etc. So what you would find, though, would be this sense of dependability, and that, yeah, these behaviors that I've identified, I have seen them elsewhere, and they seem to be a logical part of the human condition, and that's very important. Okay, another thing that I find a little easier, I am more more of an in-depth kind of thinker. I don't take that big global view, the Gestalt view that we talk about. I'm more into counting trees rather than trying to see, as Shakespeare said, what the forest looks like. So the sample size for qualitative is usually smaller. You can do a biography. You can do a case study of 1, 3, 5 people. Obviously, you can go to larger groups. One of the things that you'll be reading will tell you that if you move beyond about 50 people, you're really not doing qualitative anymore, because there are statistical treatments that are much better with numbers 50 up. So I'll leave that for where it is. Okay, a couple quick things before I wrap this up. First, I've said it last week, I'll repeat it. Not every time, but I will certainly repeat it today. That is, we don't use Adobe or anything of a multiple group measure in my courses, mainly because I believe in pure asynchronous learning. I'm not going to try to ask you to rearrange your schedule around mine. So I will work with you, as I said in one of the other presentations. If you want to Skype, let me know. Call me anytime, but we're not going to say 7 p.m. on a Sunday night. You must be at your computer with your headset looking at me. So that is something I want you to keep on top of, but it doesn't mean I'm not available. I'm there for you pretty much whenever you need me. And the second one, since there are at least 4 and maybe 5 people in this particular class with whom I have not had the privilege of working, I would appreciate early on, even before you do your participant observer or going indigenous, that you say just a little bit about yourself, or write a little bit about yourself, as it were. Only because it helps me understand your context. It's a qualitative process. I can see how what you said about yourself might condition the way you react to one of the sets of PowerPoint, to one of the readings. Now, those are important to me so that I can be a better facilitator of your learning. So, as I said in the email to you, Thank you for being here, and we are on about it.